A bill introduced in the Parliament pursuant to Article 3 requires the recommendation of the President. And where such a bill affects the area, you know what happened? The recommendations come in 2004 itself. The President made a reference while addressing both the houses of the Parliament. The steps should be initiated for the Parliament. Collective views are the same. The phrase in Article 3 expressing its views is important. State Assembly is the expression is for its views, for its consent. In fact, it is of a lesser purpose that even the requirement to ascertain, amendation for its views and its approach, which had been amended in 1955. Moreover, Article 3 permits the Parliament to proceed on the bill, even in the absence of an expression of views, as for instance, the failure of state legislature to act within the time frame specified. Even where views are expressed by a state within the time frame prescribed, Parliament is not bound to accept such views. This is not what I am saying. This is a quote from the judgment of the Supreme Court. The stance taken by the powers that be in Delhi, that unanimity and consensus is required amongst all political parties, stands in stark contrast with the width of powers of the Union of India assured in Article 3. It is this stark contrast that gives us a measure of the degree of constitutional mischief brought into the discourse about statehood for Telangana. As a matter of constitutional provisions, when even the process of expression of views by the state legislatures can only be time-bound, and the views of the concerned state legislature, if expressed, can be ignored by the Parliament in its wisdom. The stance of the Government of India, in case of Telangana, that unanimity and consensus is required amongst political parties, is clearly an abdication of its constitutional duties and surrender of the power of the Union of India. The power enumerated have been so vested in the Union of India to effectuate the project of governance of the entire country within the four corners of permissibility and in accordance with the values enshrined in the Constitution. This includes the responsibility of ensuring that people living in various areas who have been hitherto subjected to constitutional neglect are provided the opportunity to access the benefits of proper constitutional governance in a new state, even though the purpose of protection of the constitutional project will be served by the forming of Telangana and is in fact necessary for excuses being made by the Government of India are tantamount to curtailment of the width and amplitude of the power of the Union of India. I'm telling the Union of India, just to avoid to create this state, don't cut your serious power. One day it will come, you will cry for advancing this argument. Don't surrender your power. All of you know, when I say that don't surrender your power to whom? You know to whom I mean. By setting a wrong precedent for pure political gains, the Government of India is actually truncating the powers of the nation state itself. This is a de facto alteration of the basic structure of the Constitution. To deny the people of Telangana the right to a consideration of their constitutional status by the National Parliament, even after the Government of India had formed the opinion that forming the state of Telangana is constitutionally desirable and necessary, given the history of injustices suffered by the people of Telangana, is to undermine the democratic project in India. To be sure, the admonition to seek unanimity and consensus, where probable, may sometimes have both ethical and utilitarian justifications. Yes, whenever there is such a requirement, yes. However, the requirement of unanimity and consensus is a necessity for exercising the powers of the Union of India, as enumerated in Article 3, would necessarily be a curtailment of flexibility that the Constitution itself provides in order to secure the constitutional project. It is not without reasons that the Constitution does not require unanimity and consensus in order to exercise the powers granted by it. No aspect of human affairs could be reasonably be expected to lead to unanimity of views and consensus by all stakeholders. The requirement of unanimity and consensus ab initio is to foreclose the possibility of collective action by the state. The stance by Union of India that unanimity and consensus is required amongst all political parties with respect to formation of Telangana state strikes a blow at the very notion that the state would have to act to protect the interest of the people and the entire country as well as in different regions and afford them the protections of the Constitution, notwithstanding political opposition. Inasmuch as it strikes the capacity of the state to transcend politics, even when necessary to act exists, the stance taken by the Government of India with respect to formation of Telangana indicates an incapacity to govern the nation in accordance with the principles of the Constitution. We must address the issue of damage that the retreat by the Government of India with respect to its December 9 statement issue. National institutions of governance. Our Constitution is a finely wrought balance between power to accomplish the goals of the nation, enunciated in the preamble, and the limitations and manner and modes of exercise of power that would undermine those very goals. Our Constitution was written by one of the greatest generations of Indians who had ever lived and indeed arguably amongst the finest human beings in the history of mankind. What they poured into it was the collective wisdom of entire mankind, forged through the fire of the struggle for freedom. To upset that finely wrought balance in that Constitution on the annual of wily political opportunism should surely count as a violation of the text and spirit of the Constitution. The deliberate delay in formation of state on specious reasoning of requirement of unanimity and consensus is to now set the grounds to shackle the Union of India from exercising its power under Article 3 with respect to other regions under new and exigent circumstances that may arise in the future. Let us assume that for now, by following the unethical, undemocratic and unconstitutional recommendations of hitherto alluded commission on Telangana, the power that we succeeded in suppressing the movement demanding statehood for Telangana. What exactly would the message sent to the people of Telangana? This is a question that has been bothering me. That the next iteration of the movement, which surely will come, would need to be far more intense. It is hypothetical, right? What is that is left to us now? What else you are required to do? Surely we will come, would need to be far more intense. Where would such heightened intensity lead the people of the region to? Where would it lead the people of the other two regions to? And indeed, the country to? What message does it send to other people in other parts of the country who are being denied the benefit of constitutional governance? That they need to start their movement at the level of intensity far above what mostly peace-loving Telanganaites have achieved so far. This is what exactly you want in the future? Constitutional identity can be altered beyond recognition by abdication of constitutional responsibilities. Our Constitution is not merely a document that sets forth negative limits on exercise of powers by instrumentalities of the state, but is also one that casts affirmative obligations on instrumentalities of the state to achieve the welfare of the people, all the people, and such welfare necessarily includes conditions for realization of justice, social, economic, and political, for individuals and groups in which they belong to and reside in various parts of India. Ladies and gentlemen, constitutional wisdom can be a razor's edge of demanding the sacrifice of temporary political gains for the protection of constitutional values. To refuse to walk that razor's edge, even though the hope of constitutional governance would be lost for many crores of people, is the worst form of moral abdication. The precedent that the political sphere is setting by delaying the process of debate on a bill for the formation of Telangana in the parliament is to deny the people of Telangana the protections of democratic deliberations guaranteed by the Constitution. This undermines the authority of the parliament as the final institutional arbiter in the political sphere. We have seen the people of India respond to the appeals of respect for parliament authority to frame laws to combat corruption. Why everybody is looking at parliament? This is what happened on the other day. All that what we are saying is, let the parliament debate. All that you are required to do, put the bill, let the parliament debate. If the parliament says no, it is no. We have seen the people of India respond to the appeals of respect for parliament's authority to frame laws to combat corruption. Such a respect is what sustains the constitutional project, because it still leaves hopes amongst the people that such constitutional institutions will provide the platform for their grievances to be heard at some point or other. To undermine the powers of such an institution, especially the powers that are explicitly granted by the Constitution and tied to a duty, is an extremely dangerous move. In the end, I must express my fervent hope that there are still reasonable people at the helm of affairs who care about the constitutional values and proceed to act on the repeated promises made to people of Telangana. I am not soothsayer, and I cannot give you any assurance as to whether that will happen in foreseeable future. All I can say is this: the struggle for statehood for Telangana must go on. To accept the argument that proper constitutional governance is possible with respect to the people of Telangana within the integrated state of Andhra Pradesh would be a betrayal of people of Telangana, and also a suspension of all foundations of reason, thought and action. Indeed, it would be an abdication of our responsibility as citizens of India and a defilement of the values enshrined in our Constitution to not continue to struggle for formation of state for Telangana. The worst sufferers on account of the non-extension of benefits of proper constitutional governance in this region have been the socially, economically disadvantaged. To stutter in our struggle for Telangana would be an act of moral abandonment of our brothers and sisters, a denial of our responsibility to further the constitutional project, and a denigration of our own humanity, and indeed the humanity of the people of India. For nearly 6 decades, we have waged a peaceful struggle, placing hopes in the constitutional machinery. Ultimately, constitutions fail or succeed on the strength of support of the people as a nation. Even as the politicians betray the constitutional project, friends, trust the people of this country. They are a great people who will not allow injustices and discriminations against Telanganites to be continued or wrong. As long as we adhere to the 4 corners of constitutional permissibility, we will always be moral claimants we will always be moral claimants on the nation. The history of the people of this nation has been that they have always made good their moral debts. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your forbearance. I know the time allotted was 50 minutes. I thought it was a classroom lecture, that's why the foundation said 50 minutes. No doubt I think I have exceeded. I beg your pardon for that, for detaining you. Thank you once again for your support.